experience.
Really is one of the tone controller's new engine.
Very cheerful, but could be nervous at times. The Fat Controller had told her to get used to her surroundings, but the yard seemed scary to her, and she thought that if she wasn't careful, she would become lost. Just then, a blue tank engine puffed into the yard. This was Thomas, but Rosie didn't know that yet. The Fat Controller greeted him. "Well done, Thomas. You finished all your jobs in record time. You really are a useful engine. You may go and rest until your next passenger train is ready," announced the Fat Controller proudly. Rosie was impressed too. "He seems like an engine who knows what he's doing," she thought. "If I follow him, I won't get lost." She tried to whistle to the blue engine, but he was too tired to hear her. All the same, she decided to follow him. As she did, she started to like him more and more. She especially liked how he wheeshed and whistled. At Knapford, Thomas was waiting at the station when Rosie wheeshed in. "Hello, I'm Rosie," she said, and she wheeshed and whistled just like Thomas. Thomas found her copying him strange, but didn't want to be rude. He thought it might have just been an accident. "Hello," he replied. "I'm Thomas. I was just wondering, how come you've been following me?" "Oh, I'm new to this island and didn't want to get lost. I hope that was okay." Thomas didn't know why she'd chosen to follow him in particular, but before he could ask, the Fat Controller arrived. "I'm sorry, but there's been a change of plans. I have an important job for you, Thomas," he said. "It's my niece's birthday today, but her presents got lost on the way to the island. We have now found them, but the mail train can't get them to her on time. Now, usually I wouldn't give you jobs like this, but what kind of uncle would I be if I left her with no presents, especially presents from her mother? That is why I need you to take them to High Farm. As for you, Rosie, I wasn't expecting you to arrive so early, so I'd like you to see more of your new surroundings until tomorrow." Thomas collected his train and set off. Rosie looked around, but there was no one else there to show her where to go, so she followed Thomas. At a station, Thomas was stopped at a red signal when Rosie pulled up. She once again blew a whistle and wheezed like Thomas. This time he knew it wasn't an accident and thought she was mocking him. "Would you stop doing that?" he said crossly. But Rosie just smiled. Then there was a sound of a helicopter. It was Harold. "You two need to be careful out there. There's a storm on the way. There could be landslides near here. Stay safe." And he buzzed away. Both engines were worried, but Thomas still wanted to take the presents. "Would you like some help taking the presents?" she asked kindly. "I don't need help," Thomas retorted, and he puffed away. Rosie looked back, but she couldn't remember how to get back to Tidmouth Station. She had no choice but to follow Thomas again. This time, every once in a while, she whistled to him. Thomas grew crosser and crosser. Up ahead, there was a junction. One track led directly to Hill Farm, but the other was tougher to get through, and so he asked the signalman to switch the points. "She won't be able to follow me this way," he puffed to himself cheekily. "She'll be afraid of getting lost. Now she won't be able to make fun of me." Then there was trouble. As Thomas puffed down the track, he was too busy thinking about how he had outsmarted Rosie. Ahead was a landslide. Thomas tried to stop, but it was too late. As much as he tried to go forwards and backwards, he couldn't. He was well and truly stuck. "Oh dear," said Thomas sadly. "Now the girl won't get her present." Then he heard Rosie's whistle, but this time it didn't sound like his. Rosie came to a stop. She was very worried. She'd forgotten about wishing like Thomas now. "Oh dear," she cried. "I'll go and get help." She started to leave until Thomas stopped her. "Wait!" he shouted. "Please, can you take the presents to Hill Farm first?" Rosie was worried. "But I don't know the way." "I'll tell you," said Thomas happily, and he told her the directions. Rosie puffed away feeling very brave. Thomas was now happy that Rosie had followed him. The wind and the rain made Thomas very cold, but the thought of the presents arriving safely kept him warm. Later on, she returned. "I've called for help and it won't be long till they get here. In the meantime, I've brought someone who wanted to see you." Thomas was sure it would be the Fat Controller to tell him off, but it wasn't. Instead, a little girl was in Rosie's cab. "Thank you for bringing me my presents," she said with a big smile. "I couldn't have done it without Rosie," Thomas interjected warmly. "Thank you, Rosie." "It was no problem," Rosie replied. That night, Rosie told Thomas about how much the girl and her mum had brightened up when they saw the presents. With every word, Thomas's smile grew bigger. "Thank you again, Rosie. I'm sorry I was rude to you. I thought you were trying to mock me." Rosie was surprised. "Me? Mock you?" she replied. "I'd never do that. You're kind, selfless, and most of all, a really useful engine." And the two whistled happily together.